What's up guys, About here coming at you with another retro deck profile. Today we're going to be going over Vincent R's. I apologize, I cannot pronounce that last name and I'm not going to try and butcher it. First place Shonen Jump Columbus Twilight deck. For me, this is full power Lightsworn. This is Lightsworn at their best. We have our, the only hit on the list was only 2 Judgment Dragon, but outside of that, the deck is pretty much at full power, and in this format, we also had Tragoedia released, so for me this is the biggest, most powerful Lightsworn deck in its history. So we have our 2 Judgment Dragons, the boss monster. It's at 2. The format before it was still at 2 because, again, we didn't have Tragoedia, so you didn't really have any battle-stopping traps besides the one Gorz, really, that you could go Judgment Dragon, Blowboard, Judgment Dragon, 9,000, and that was an OTK, and with cards like Beckoning and Reincarnation, it's kind of really easy, so it's understandable where the deck got even more powerful, even though there are, more battle stoppers with Tragoedia and things to interrupt the battle phase. It was not a good idea to bring the card back to 3. So we have our 3 Lumina. This is discard, special summon. This is kind of get your plays going. It is not a hard once per turn, so you can loop multiples and just kind of keep your plays rolling. 2 Lyla to pop back row, mills 3 during the end phase, just like Lumina. A card that combos really well with Lumina. We have 1 Garoth. You would essentially turn 1 if you had a target available for Lumina. You could either discard Garoth, or if you mill Garoth, you could discard to summon that Garoth, and you would mill 3 with Lumina, and then you would mill 2 with Garoth, and you would hope to draw some cards with that effect. Some more names. We play 1 Jain as a beat stick, and 1 Aurkus. Yeah, it is kind of just another name, but in the mirror match, it's actually pretty interesting because you can use Aurkus to prevent your opponent from being able to summon anything with their Luminas, because it says Lightsworn monsters, and it doesn't have it on this version of the card, but it says everywhere, cannot be targeted by effects, and since Lumina targets, your opponent cannot use Lumina's effect. 2 Wulf. If it gets milled, you summon it. It's a 2100 body. It sucks to draw. You just discard it off recharge and things like that. But it did combo well with our 2 Celestias. Mill 4 for cost. Destroy cards when tribute summoned by tributing a Lightsworn. So if you played charge or recharge or something and you milled Wulf, you could just tribute it off, pop 2 cards, and then go off from there. If you have Judgment Dragon, just drop your Judgment Dragon, and that's 53. And then we get into the non-Lightsworn part of the deck. The 3 Honest. The battle trap here. First Honest always wins. It's kind of interesting, a little bit of mind games, whatever you would, because Chainlink 1 Honest always wins, because Chainlink 2 resolves first, and then your Honest just gains the attack bonus of their Honest that they boosted, so Chainlink 1 always wins. So even if you were bigger than your opponent in the mirror, what you would do is you could sometimes, use this guy to be bigger, even if you were already bigger, for fearing their Honest, depending on what was in their graveyard. It was an interesting mirror match. I wouldn't say it's like really skillful, because it really is heavily dependent on their mills, but it's like being aware of what's in your opponent's graveyard and the likelihood that they have one of these, because if they've milled 2 and they have 20 something cards in their deck still, they probably don't have the 3rd, and then you get bit for attacking into the 3rd. It's just kind of how it works. The tuner of the deck, we have 1 Plaguespreader Zombie. It's really good for being able to have a tuner to mill. You could also top deck Wulf and then mill it with a Lightsworn effect that you have on board, which is another common play with it. And then another card we want to mill are 3 Necro Gardnas to stop attacks, keep our Lightsworns alive, especially if we want to have a Celestia play. If our opponent tries to beat over our 1 Lightsworn and we have a Necro Gardna, we can save it and then sack for Celestia. We have a few boss monsters here. We have our 2 Chaos Sorcerers, because we play a fair amount of darks, and obviously all the Lightsworn monsters are lights, and we double up on names, so we don't have to worry too much about our Judgment Dragon not being able to be summoned. 1 Dark Arm Dragon, and then we have our damage battle traps. So you have the 1 Gorz and the 3 Tragoedia. We do play a lot of different levels in the deck, so we are able to take Pretty much anything with Tragoedia's effect, depending on what we have on our in hand. Next, we will move on to the spell lineup. For our consistency, we have 3 Charge of the Light Brigade, mill 3 for cost, and then go search out level 4 lower Lightsworn. This is kind of what made the deck run. For drawing cards, we have our Lightsworn draw card. We have 3 Solar Recharge, get those Wulfs out of our hand, get dead Celestias, things like that. Get extra names in the grave, draw 2, mill 2. And then we have, because of all the darks, we have our 2 Allure of Darkness. To fix our hand, we have 1 Reincarnation. You would occasionally see builds playing more than 1, but this deck didn't need 1 because of other cards that it did play. The last spell is 1 Heavy Storm, and then those 2 cards that we mentioned earlier, Beckoning Lights. The important thing to remember with this card is discarding is not cost, so you wouldn't necessarily just lose your hand. If your opponent had an out to this, if they like judgmented it or 7 tools or something like that. And we will get on to the extra deck here. For 5s, we have 1 Catastor and 1 Android. For 6s, we have our still legal at the time Goyo Guardian, 2 Brionic, the ability to just discard Lightsworn to get extra names. Sometimes that was more relevant. If you had a Judgment Dragon in your hand, you had 3 names, you could just make Brio, discard a name, bounce a card, and then summon your Judgment Dragon. And then Tempest Magician, because we can make it with Lyla. And then our last 6, it might seem a little odd, but 1 Doomkaiser. So zombies were another relevant deck in this event, as well as a little bit of Black Wings, but there were a fair amount of zombies at this event. And a lot of them were playing creature swap, so you could summon this if they were to creature swap, like a Pyramid Turtle or something, and then you could use your Plaguespreader to make this and then steal their Mizuki, because you could protect your Pyramid Turtle with your Necro Gardnas. So you use your Necro Gardna to keep the Pyramid Turtle alive, and then you could use your Plaguespreader and then steal their Mizukis or things like that to keep them from being able to go off on their next turn, which is kind of interesting. For 7s, we have 1 Black Rose, 1 Ancient Fairy, and 1 Arcanite Magician. For 8s, we have 1 Stardust, pretty staple, 1 Colossal Fighter, 1 Avenging Knight Parshath. This card is kind of hard to make, but you can make it with, like, if you go Lumina, effect, discard, target another Lumina, and then top deck for Plague, and then make this, because the non-tuners do have to be light monsters. Dark End, we can make this pretty easily with Chaos Sorcerer, or using Trag to copy Chaos Sorcerer's effect or level, and this is a great way to be able to deal with opposing Judgment Dragons if they weren't able to go for game with their Judgment Dragon. And then the 9 is Mist Wurm. If you guys have any other decks you'd like to see, let me know in the comments. Like and subscribe, all that good stuff for more old format content, and thanks for watching, guys.